We'll be putting a initially small tariff on pharmaceuticals, but in 1 year,
President
1.5 years maximum, it's going to go to 150%, and then it's going to go to 250%, because we want pharmaceuticals made in our country.
Let me tell you, Trump just tried to flex with a 250% pharmaceutical tariff bluff. And guess what? It blew up in his face. And the reactions from Canada and the EU, oh, they're not just diplomatic, they're dripping with fury. This is no ordinary trade spat. This is a geopolitical chess game where medicine, money, and political egos are the pieces. Stick around, because what's happening right now could rewrite how the entire world negotiates trade, and trust me, you won't believe the moves being played behind the scenes. Here's the deal. President Trump has dropped what might be his most jaw-dropping tariff threat yet, slapping a 250% tax on pharmaceutical imports. 250%. That's not a typo, it's a battering ram aimed squarely at a global industry worth trillions. We're not talking about niche luxury items here, we're talking life-saving drugs, heart meds, cancer treatments, insulin, stuff people literally cannot live without. The potential fallout? Drug prices spiking, global supply chains unraveling, allies becoming adversaries overnight. And here's the kicker. US allies aren't rolling over. Canada and the EU are sharpening their knives, preparing counter moves that could turn this into a full-blown trade war. This firestorm ignited on August 5, 2025. Trump announced through one of his now classic high-voltage press conferences that his administration was considering these tariffs, with implementation possible within 12 to 18 months. The announcement wasn't just aimed at one region, it was global. Canada, the European Union, and other major pharmaceutical exporters instantly found themselves in the crosshairs. Let's break down the moves. On August 5, Trump drops the 250% tariff bomb. Markets shudder, analysts scramble, pharma CEOs start booking emergency flights to DC. Simultaneously, leaks suggest the administration is pressuring big pharma to raise European drug prices. Why? So US drug prices look cheaper by comparison. The EU responds fast. A trade deal is struck, capping tariffs at 15% for many EU goods, including branded pharmaceuticals. On paper, this looks like compromise, but analysts calculate this still adds a staggering $13 to $19 billion in costs to the EU pharma sector. Industry backlash. The EFPIA and major EU drug makers call the move a blunt instrument that not only violates WTO norms, but threatens to derail R&D pipelines and choke supply lines. Tensions ripple across other industries: steel, copper, dairy, some facing their own looming tariff hikes of up to 50%. This wasn't just a headline stunt, it rattled already fragile trade nerves worldwide. So why this nuclear-sounding number, 250%? One word: leverage. Trump's trade playbook is clear. Start with an over-the-top escalation, then negotiate down to something more palatable while making it seem like a concession. But beneath the showmanship is a more calculated goal: forcing pharmaceutical companies to raise prices abroad so that US prices stop looking like the world's highest. And this isn't happening in a vacuum. It's wrapped inside a larger narrative of economic nationalism and protectionism. Trump frames it as correcting decades of unfair trade deals. His base here's America first. Global markets here brace for impact. Pharma stocks dipped almost instantly. Big pharma executives, already juggling post-pandemic supply issues, suddenly had a potential multi-billion-dollar tariff hanging over their heads. Even with the 15% compromise, the EU's pharma industry faces $19 billion in new costs, money that could have gone into R&D, clinical trials, or price stabilization. Disrupted supply chains mean delayed drug deliveries. Industry experts warn that if this escalates, patients, not just profits, will pay the ultimate price. EU leaders are livid. Canadian PM Mark Carney has positioned himself as the calm but firm countervoice, quietly rallying allies. France went nuclear in rhetoric, calling the EU-US deal a dark day for Europe. Here's the wild part. Before this week, pharmaceuticals were tariff-exempt under WTO rules. This move shatters a long-standing international agreement that kept life-saving medicines outside the scope of trade wars. And the pharma fight isn't isolated. Tariffs on raw materials like steel and copper could squeeze manufacturing sectors. Food exports like dairy are also under threat. It's like Trump's team pulled a menu from a trade war buffet and checked almost every box. As of August 7th, 2025, the EU-US agreement caps pharma tariffs at 15%. That's enough to avert immediate disaster, but it's a fragile truce. Pharma lobbyists are already pushing for systemic fixes, like aligning EU drug prices more closely with US levels to avoid becoming perpetual tariff targets. The next moves? If the EU resists, tariffs could climb again. Big Pharma might reconfigure supply chains, investing more heavily in US production to dodge future threats. Canada, sensing the volatility, is quietly building alliances to counterbalance US pressure. Here's the takeaway. This wasn't just about pills and patents. This was about raw power, how nations weaponize economics to rewrite the rules in their favor. Trump's 250% tariff bluff might have been just that, a bluff. But it forced global players to show their hands. And now the whole board has shifted. Pharma companies have to think geopolitically, not just chemically. Trade negotiators are on notice. Outrageous opening bids aren't just noise, they're strategy. And ordinary people, they've been reminded that global politics can reach right into their medicine cabinet. So, what do you think? Are we watching the dawn of a new era where drug prices and trade deals get negotiated in the same breath? Or is this just another flashy headline in the endless cycle of tariff threats? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take on whether this was genius strategy or reckless gamble. And if you want to keep unpacking these high-stakes global maneuvers with me, hit that subscribe button, because this trade war isn't over. It's just getting started.